What's going on, everybody? It's me, the TheT-SaneOtaku here, and I'm here for some February deck profiles. So I'm mostly here just having these profiles up because I haven't really posted anything in a long time. Once Stargate pops, I'm gonna be uploading a lot more because I'm just gonna have the product to go and work with it. Mostly in these, I'm going to be going and just rapid firing off all the decks I have that are usable and I really enjoy playing. Right now, as you can see, the first one we have is Big Bellies. As you can also see, I do have proxies because I'm a poor man. Because I need to save up for the Stargate Clan booster case that I'm getting. So I wasn't really able to buy a lot of Zoo or finish off some of the other decks that I was playing. Just so you know, in all of the deck profiles from here on out, any cards that are really just cram-packed, you can always run alternatives. For example, in all of my deck profiles, I am not running Seabreeze nor Blizza, even though Blizza's that option if you're really tight. Like, for example, if you can't buy as many of these as you want, replace one of them for one of these, or for one of these. I'm just mostly showing you like what's the maximum you can run of the cards that makes the deck functional. Also, if you're not in a tournament scene, Seabreeze isn't really that important. Just so you know. But yeah, Blizz is always also a good option as well. I don't really like the new one that came out because I don't know. I just think that Blizz does the most work. But just keeping that in mind for all the deck profiles coming up. So, first off, as we know, we're going to start off with the starter. This is not actually the starter. The starter is going to be Telescope Rabbit. I just did not print out the proxy of him. As we all know, Telescope Rabbit is the counterblast one, rests itself, gives something 4K and it blows up. It's just the better starter in this deck just because of the fact that I like to go and have the early presence. And this guy doesn't really work with some of the cards in the deck because of the fact that, not all cards have success. So, if you want to run him, you can, but Telescope Rabbit is for sure the way to go. Next we have 4 copies of the main Duder, the new Big Belly. As you can see, this guy's my proxy for him. I just haven't gotten my 4th one yet. It'll be coming soon. So this guy's our new grade 3. He's really good. He's got that nice rear guard ability, the on swing, stand dude. His on placement makes you going to grade 3 first, not a bad thing to do at all. And mostly he just really makes the deck a lot of fun. Also, this SP version of him looks really cool. I really like it because you got this adorable little snoring one over here and etc. Like just looks really cute. Nice, cute card. Next up, running 2 copies of Tuskmaster. This card is just really good because it also stands up more units, so that you can run these and then you run these, so you have 6 cards that could possibly stand. As you heard from my words, I'm actually not going to be using Crayon Tiger in this deck. Many people will automatically just close out of this right now, but I'm taking this as a more budget approach, and I'm just really seeing what it can do without Crayon Tiger. The other big reason is because Crayon Tiger doesn't have success, and when you really are in a Kagero and lock meta with, like a little bit of a spoiler, we have our Rider, grade 2. You really want things with success. This thing is an exception. This thing doesn't have success, but I just really need that stand power that Crayon provides. And this is where I got it from. So, him at a 2. Lastly, for grade 3s, we're running 1 copy of the new common grade 3. As many of you might have heard, this guy gets really, 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 really good with Menagarmor, because then it blocks out grade 0s and grade 1s. He's also a good success unit. The reason why we run 1 is because this guy's going to be searchable in the deck, so you only really need 1, and you don't want to be riding this thing, nor Tuskmaster. So as many times as you can not have this in your opening hand, the better. And then just as long as it doesn't end in your damage, then it should be pretty good. Next up, we have the triggers. So to make up for not having Crayon Tiger, I'm running 4 stands. I I do not know which stand I want to do yet. All these deck profiles I have, I'm actually going to go and have 2 versions of them. One now, before I test the entire month of February, and then at the end of the month, or maybe in the start of March, I'm going to have a deck profile with hopefully most of these cards filled in so they won't have proxies, and I'll have definite answers. This one really just helps for putting into soul and drawing, using some counterblast up that I really don't use that many in this deck. I mean, you use some, but you don't use that many because most of your strides use soul. Most of your Crayon Tiger plays are now not used, so the counterblast is a little bit more free. But this guy also helps with the soul, and it also helps you get units back that have success, that they blow up and you can come back and use them again. Or you could come back and use like more Tuskmasters or Big Bellies. So I don't know which one's more beneficial yet. I'll go and fill you guys in once I know the details myself. Next up, for heal, it's the new Countercharge Soul Charge heal. Pretty generic. Nothing really to explain with that one. Then we got 4 crit. It's the pop into soul crit. We need soul, and we run 8 of them. We run 8 crit. Pop into soul crit, 5k, draw 3k. It's just mostly to go and help keep our soul in check. And also, you know, with 8 crit, it also helps us keep that nice presence when we are in the early game. Next up, we're going to grade 1s. We're going to start off with, you know, 3 stride fodder. I don't really like using my grade 3s to stride, so that's why I like having these in the deck, of course. Also, if you go and you can't get our mics in the early game, then this thing can help you get the grade 3 you need, of course. It's just 3 stride fodder, you know, it's a stride deck. It's kind of self-explanatory. We run 3 copies of Coiling Duckbill. Coiling Duckbill just helps you with that early presence where you can extend in the early game and then use your Telescope Rabbit to go and just retire whatever you give this thing to. It just helps you be able to attack and just keep your hand fulfilled, and you know, it's so you can just do stuff early. That's mostly it. And then to help out with the early game, we run 4 copies of the good old Mike. Mike just really helps us in the deck because we want, as much as it may sound weird, but we want as many grade 3s as we can in our hands, because we want to ride and use all of the grade 2 big bellies that we can. So Mike just really helps us get them into our hand. Also, if we don't get the grade 3, it's not the end of the world as long as we have a Mike to get them into our hand. So he helps us out a lot in the deck. We run 4 of the best PG, in my opinion, in the entire thing. I really like Deli Belly because of his draw countercharge. The soul is a little tight in the deck and it's GB restricted, but that shouldn't really be a problem because, you know, we use a little bit of counterblast early, not too much, and then by the time we get to grade 3, we can usually unflip most of it. I just really like this card, mostly also because of the fact that I really, really, really like this card's art, and he's just come in clutch for me in so many games in my testing so far, and I just really like this over the in-drop zone PG for the fact that I don't see every one of these PGs in a game. So I might like maybe see one of these in a game. So his countercharging ability's amazing because, oh, I only see one, then I get one countercharge, other than the other one where you have to use one or ride it or whatever, and then you get potentially 3 countercharges, but you might not see the rest of these in a game. So I think that this is the best PG because you just don't see them all. So, and for one of Spicy Tech, we run the Clip Lesser. This card's just mostly there for the countercharge and the draw. For the longest time, I thought you could use him early, so I had him bumped up to 3, and I had some other cards bumped down. I found out that it requires a face-up card in the G zone to go and get his red text off, so I might change this out for the running Maux or whatever the card is. But the countercharge that he provides is pretty nice. Also, the numbers in this deck are just really kind of weird. I could change this out for another Coiling Duckbill. I don't know. I just really liked having this as a one-of because when you need the countercharge, it really helps. So next up, we go to grade 2s. So this is where people might go and get all wonky because, you know, we don't run Crayon Tiger, but we do run 3 copies of our Scribe. This card is just mostly our answer to most of the Kagero matchups and, you know, the Link Joker matchup for a little bit, not really that much. But it gives all units with success resist and 2k. His Soul Blast ability is never used unless you're like facing Kagero and you're first striding and you're not going to get to success, which is usually not the case. But I mean, yeah, he's just a success target, gains resist to the whole board. It's just really helpful, especially if you could even put this thing in the back row, right? And then have your 2 good units in the front, and then just keep on swinging with those, and then they have resist so that they can't be targeted. The only bad thing is if you put this in the back row, then you can, if you're facing Kagero, then they could defeat Claret, so you just gotta keep that in mind. Next up, we're running 4 copies of the new Binoculus Tiger variant. This is Artistic Ocelot. Artistic Ocelot's really good because it has, like I said before, the Binoculus Tiger part at the beginning, and then he's got the GB1, another 4K and draw card. This is my answer because of the fact that even if we don't have Crayon Tiger, you can still pop this on the board, get your draw off, and keep on pumping up more units. It's mostly because of this card and the other cards I run. I just couldn't find space to put Crayon in. Like if I was able to put it in, even I think I might even put it as like a 2 of. Sadly, this card doesn't have success, so it doesn't really work with Artistic Ocelot as well. It's a little bit iffy. Like the deck's really hard to play with sometimes. If you really want to, of course, you can run this card as like a 1 of or like a 0 if you're really feeling it. But I really do enjoy this card, and if you're cut for Counterblast, then a cheap 4K for free on its swing always helps. And then we're going to run 3 copies of our Otter here. Otter's really good just because of that early presence where you can go and sit there and extend with this. You could smack him on the board, and then if you're able to get him or anybody to success, they can bounce back to hand. This is really nice because, you know, if you're sitting there and you're on grade 2, you can just call these guys out, and then you can have these bounce back to hand so you can still have guard material. The only bad thing is if he does bounce back to hand, you can't use this guy as a target for most of your Coiling Duckbills or Mike plays, because Mike requires you and Coiling Duckbill to go to the drop zone. So that's where this guy gets a little clunky, but the other thing I like about him is his GB1 free 4K, which really comes in handy, especially when you're like pretty screwed over for Counterblast, where you can just place down 2 of these and give a unit 8k and automatically gain success off of that. So it really just comes in handy. And then for the last card in the main deck, we run 1 spicy tech of Matrix Code Zebra. I mostly run this card because of the fact that my hand can get low off of, like, right before we hit the first stride, I might have a low hand. If this card is in my hand, he's what I'll call off of my on-stride ability. So I'll stride, get the GB1, and then I'll call this unit. Mostly just to go and call a new card from the top of the deck. You could run, I know that there's the old grade 2 7Ks that you have that can do the same thing early game. But I like this card because he also gains power if the unit's success. So if you first stride this thing, you might be able to like call the big belly and then automatically basically have success, and you haven't even used the stride's ability to gain 4k yet. So once you do that, it's a free success. Nothing else has to be done. Yet again, it also helps with our our counterblast problems. So it's kind of why I don't have counterblast problems in the deck. Then we're going to go on to the G zone. So first off, we run 3 copies of the amazing GR. So this guy's really good. He's a good first stride, second stride, and then, you know, if you're really feeling it, third stride. There's just so many good things that this card does. His once a turn draw card gives presence on first stride, and then from there on out, it just beefs up your board a lot. So when you restand them, they just continuously have that presence. The great thing is he's pretty, easy self-explanatory why you run him. He's just really good. And then we run one copy of Hrimthirst. This is your oh crap I screwed up play. Mostly this is just a flip target, to be honest. But there's been one game where I only had one unit in the front of my board, and getting it plus 8k and being able to draw one card off of it was better than going into the GR that flips to go and give things. So it was desperation at that point. Aside from that, it's a cute card. It's a nice flip target. Do what you want to do. Next up, we're running 2 copies of a Funk. This is if you don't have Lesser Rider and you just want to go and make sure you get your plays off that you need to. He just gives resist. He also makes himself beefy, so I have used him one time where he was I was facing a Link Joker, and I could not go and get because my front 2 were locked, and I had almost a full back row. I just called the back row basically to get him 15k and resist, so it just really helped him out. And then, he also kind of is flip target. Like, you have to run something to flip, so you kind of run him. Also, he's kind of on the cheaper side, so why not? The next card we have is 2 copies of the best amazing thing, our Big Belly grade 4. So what he does is he gives a unit 4k for every card in your face-up in your G zone, and then he can give the ability that if it hits, stand your board. This card's really good if you have like if your deck's thin, you have some stands left, and like you have a couple cards face up in the G zone. This is usually like my nice third stride for finisher. I just really like this card because as long as you can keep on making that one unit hit, you're pretty golden. Even if it's not hitting, it still is going to get really beefy, and it requires a lot of guard from them. Otherwise, they know that they're going to go and just stand up everything. I have seen it where they just took the first, I swing with the dude first, and they just took it because I knew they couldn't guard it, and then I just stood him back up and just swung again, and I won the game from that. So, really nice card. Normally, you don't want to flip him, though, so it's whatever. And then, like I said before, we have Managarmer. Managarmer is pretty self-explanatory. He gives guard restrict if people are over 20,000. It's a really good card. I've actually never gone into Managarmer yet. So you might be able to get away with not even running him, but yet again, there's always chances. There's always times when you might use him, so just always good to have options. And then what's left is we run 6 G Guardians, which might sound a lot, but, there's so many matchups that you face that you kind of need them all. So we run 2 copies of Armadillo. He's just our big shield. He's the retire, give something, just even though if you don't retire anything, he can still get 10k to the shield. He's just mostly there for our, shield value, like I said. That's why you run him as a 2 of compared to every other G Guardian, which is a 1 of. He's just super good. Armadillo, self-explanatory. We run 1 copy of Gridora Screw You. This card we run, like I said, for the Gridora matchup. If you don't have Gridora at your locals, or if you're not going to be going to regionals, you don't need this card then. Aside from the Gridora matchup, this card isn't really that special. It's whatever, though. I just really there's one person that I think that's going to be playing Gridora at my locals, and I'm just waiting to pop this thing into his, nice little face. So, I run it as 1 of. You could run this down to run your Sea Breeze. I think this is the easiest option to run down. We run 1 copy of our Professor. So he's just mostly there to countercharge and give 5k. So he's your smaller attacks to countercharge for. He just really helps out in terms of, trying to go and pump up things. And you actually can go and give this to if you run Max, or even if you run Clip Lesser, you can probably go and get them to success because of the other G Guardian, and then you retire them off of this. So it's, you know, there's some plays that this thing can do. He's mostly there for the counter charge though. So if you're facing off again against Gridora, or if you're facing off against just any deck where you're turboing through Counterblast and you just can't replenish it fast enough, this card can help you at least get some back, so you can just keep on using, you know, your Ocelots and other cards that use Counterblast. We will run one copy of this. This card I've actually gone into quite a bit. He gets your Vanguard and the unit that you choose, 4K for each open circle. And then if it's 20,000 or greater, the card chosen, you get a draw card. I mostly just go into this card if it's a weak rearguard swing, and then I just want to draw. He helps filter my hand with trying to get me ready for the next turn. Because drawing cards, of course, in your opponent's turn is always nice. Aside from that, you can use this card for a big shield buff, so you can give your Vanguard like 16k. And then if you're facing off against D-Robos, you probably can still get the 12k off, so it might be able to go and guard it. And then we run one copy of the Unflipping G Guardian, just so we can replenish our hand if it's full of like crap and we need combo pieces. We just smack this down and we just fill up the Guardian Circle with like all of the triggers we don't want, and then we just draw everything, so we might be able to hit it. You can also go without this card, because as you see, I don't run Zoa and I don't run the GB8, just because I don't really have the space for them. You can take down Mana Armor for GB8, you can take down Mana Armor for other cards. There's so many things you can mess with. Yet again, I'm going to go and say this is not a finished product, and I'll have this mostly done by the end of February. So that was it for Big Bellies. I hope you all enjoyed, and we'll see you all in the next one. Peace.